Hey, brewery or small business owner. At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. Are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best: making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
Are you a brewer looking to open, grow, or plan your next move? I'm Ted Zeller, liquor law attorney at Norris McLaughlin. I've spent my career working with breweries, helping them navigate the regulations that come with this industry at the municipal, county, state, and federal levels. From first permits to expansion into new markets, my team serves as legal counsel on licensing, compliance, and distribution. If you're ready to plan your next move or need legal guidance, I am here to help. Feel free to call me at 484-765-2220 or email me at tzeller@norris-law.com.
I think as an industry, we're also starting to come around to the fact that this isn't the apocalypse. This isn't Armageddon. This is a maturation. This was always going to happen for the industry. It's a natural part of any sort of maturing industry. So we can bellyache about it. We can treat it as a self-fulfilling prophecy, or we can turn it around and try to look for solutions and try to innovate our way out, because that's what we've been doing for 40 plus years now. There's like a nice through line of continuity between Ken Grossman building his brew house out of repurposed dairy tanks, or coming up with cans as a medium for craft beer, innovations on the product side like Hazy IPA, or the taproom model, which we forget is not nearly as old as it feels like it was. All those are adaptations to headwinds in the industry. We're going to find a way through this as well. It's just going to be a little less, sexy. It's going to be about like mastering our P&L and like mastering cost controls and figuring out how to run a sustainable business.
Who knew we ran a business? All right, welcome back to the BrewedAt podcast, episode 5, 6 of the CBC week. It's been a long week, aka day 2. But welcome. I'm Richie Tevlin, your host, followed by Evan Blum.
Hello, what's up?
And today we have on Aaron Gore from Beer 30 and Craft Beer Hall of Fame. So I met you last night, but Evan has been telling me that we need to have you on for months. And when I bring your name up that we're going to have you on, everyone says, "Oh my God, you need to meet him. He knows everybody."
That's alarming for everybody more than anything.
Everyone that we're talking to. Welcome. So first off, how is your CBC going?
So far, so good. I've already blown out my voice and been up way too late 2 nights in a row, so we're off to an excellent start. But yeah, the energy in Philly is fantastic. This is a great city. I think it's the exact right fit for where the industry's at right now and where CBC needs to be at.
Yeah.
So far, so good. Having a lot of fun.
So you told us you went to 26 conferences last year?
Yes. 26 conferences on 2 continents last year.
That's crazy.
Oh, did you go to the one in Asia?
Brew Asia, yeah. I was in Bangkok last year. We'll be in Ho Chi Minh City this year, probably Australia, New Zealand, possibly South Africa and England. We'll see how that goes.
Wow.
I just want to use you as a litmus test, because you're kind of seeing these things. I've been having a great time this week. But what do you think the energy is this CBC comparatively to other CBCs or other events that are across the country? Because I think it's been great, but I'm like, it's basically a home party for us. Yeah. It's like, we're just going to like all our friends' places. But like, what from your perspective, like what has it been like?
Yeah, there's something nice about being able to like show people around the place where you're from, and that is always one of the nice things about being able to host CBC is really like exposing the whole industry to the things that this industry means to you, to the people around you. I'd say the energy this year has actually been significantly higher than the last couple of years. Without running too deep down, like Vegas was a mess. And I think even the BA would be the first to acknowledge.
That was last year?
2 years
2 years ago. Last year was Indy, right? Yeah.
Last year was Indy. But 2 years ago, the industry was just starting to do this kind of dip. There was a lot of panic, a lot of skies falling kind of attitude. The venue felt luxurious and opulent and over the top at a time where that's not the messaging everyone wanted. And I don't blame the BA at all. That had been booked out like 6 years in advance.
It's also super ironic that like kind of the energy got sucked out of the industry when gambling became illegal at the same time that the CBC is there, and probably everyone's energy is sucked out from spending all night at the craps table.
Yeah, that was part of the problem. Was not only the layout. This place was huge, and we were only using like half of it. But everybody'd go off to lunch, and they wouldn't come back. Yeah, so on the supplier side, or even just in the continuity of the show side, it definitely took a hit. So Indy was awesome. I'm from Indiana originally, and the beer scene there really punches above its weight. But Indy's so spread out, it's hard to really get a sense of cohesion. So having the event in Philly, having it downtown, having it in a major city, one that has a long, really rich beer history, places like Monk's Cafe, that's really, I think, kind of reinvigorated. And I think as an industry, we're also starting to come around to the fact that this isn't the apocalypse. This isn't Armageddon. This is a maturation. This was always going to happen for the industry. It's a natural part of any sort of maturing industry. So we can bellyache about it. We can treat it as a self-fulfilling prophecy, or we can turn it around and try to look for solutions and try to innovate our way out, because that's what we've been doing for 40 plus years now. There's like a nice through line of continuity between Ken Grossman building his brew house out of repurposed dairy tanks, or coming up with cans as a medium for craft beer, innovations on the product side like Hazy IPA or the taproom model, which we forget is not nearly as old as it feels like it was. All those are adaptations to headwinds in the industry. We're going to find a way through this as well. It's just going to be a little less, sexy. It's going to be about like mastering our P&L and like mastering cost controls and figuring out how to run a sustainable business.
Who knew we ran a business?
God forbid, you're right. Like the number of people who got into this because they wanted to brew beer and have fun. You can do those things, but if you can't keep the lights on, it doesn't matter what your beer tastes like.
Yep.
And it's been awesome to see the industry kind of cluing in on that.
Cool. Awesome. So not to throw a left-hand turn, but we normally, all these interviews, like we get to know people, like go through their story.
Absolutely.
But I know in your story, you were a professional wrestler. Can we just get a quick synopsis on the professional wrestling part?
Wait, I actually didn't even know that. I'm a huge fucking wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah. So that's the problem. Excuse me. To all the listeners at home, I've had a cough that I just can't get rid of for 3 weeks. I promise I'm not infectious, CBC. But no. So I was a huge wrestling fan as a kid. Massive. Some of my first memories are watching Hulk Hogan with my dad. And he's not even a big wrestling fan, but for whatever reason, it took. So my entire childhood, that was what I wanted to be. So when I got out of high school, I got a full ride scholarship to University of Georgia for Japanese of all things, and decided to turn that down because I wanted to go to wrestling school instead.
Oh my God.
Could have used it for New Japan.
What was that?
You could have used it for New Japan.
I could have used it for New Japan. I instead never used it. but yeah, so had a great time in the industry. I was a heel mostly, and then went into managing. Did it for about 10 years between wrestling, managing, some reffing, and booking on the side as well. And eventually I had to make a choice between beer and wrestling. They both took up a lot of nights and weekends, and the only thing in the world that pays worse than beer is wrestling. So I kind of made my choice for me, but that was where I learned to run my mouth and be pretty comfortable being an embarrassing asshole in front of large groups of people. And that is a skill that has served me well over the years.
I was going to ask you about that because you are so well spoken and across like kind of all media, and you're like,
thank you.
What Evan was saying, like your name is everywhere, and you do all these engagements. But like, what was your start into, I guess, beer that then kind of evolved? Because I think you speaking was kind of naturally just a part of who you are. Maybe it came from that, but.
Well, the weird thing is I was actually the quiet goth kid in high school. It really was wrestling that kind of fooled out. When you're pretending to get your ass kicked in your underwear in a VFW in front of like 15 people, you ease up pretty quick.
Your shame just drops.
Yeah, it really helps. But no, getting into beer was really a response to me not having any idea what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Yeah.
So when I got out of high school, when I was in college, I went into IT. So did that for a little while. It was more just a thing to do than something I was passionate about. And I come from a family, no one in my entire extended family drinks. So this was something I was very unfamiliar with, but, started drinking just with some of my early 20s friends, got kind of introduced to beer and started getting a little to craft beer, but it was really on my 21st birthday, which tells you I probably started a little before I was supposed to, but my 21st birthday, I went out to a nice dinner with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. and ordered the most expensive beer on the menu, which, back then was still pretty low bar to hit, still very achievable. And it was Innocent Gun, original from Scotland, which is a Scotch ale aged in oak barrels. So real rich caramelly vanilla notes, little toast to it. My eyes popped about this big. It was just absolutely transformative. I've never had anything that had just kind of that richness and complexity and depth of flavor. And from that point forward, it was just right down the rabbit hole. So fell in love with it, got laid off from my IT job not too long after that. And all I knew is I never wanted to work in an office again. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and was talking to my girlfriend, now wife. And I was like, hey, I just never want to go back to that world. What can I do? She said, well, what do you like? I said, I don't know, beer. She said, well, do that. And my fucking head exploded. I had never even considered the idea that like beer could be a career. So she actually found me my first job in the industry on Craigslist, which is daring me a bit. Running routes for a brewery out of Chicago up in the New England area. And from there, it's just continued to grow. So moved from sales into sales management and operations. Spent 6 years as a full-time consultant, and then I've been a part of a variety of startups, both on the tech and the co-manufacturing side ever since, as well as things like the Hall of Fame. So it's been a really rich, diverse career, and I've been very blessed to be able to meet, interact with, and work with people who have done almost every aspect of this industry, which I've been able to benefit from by learning from some of their successes, but also learning from some of their mistakes and some of the things that they found that don't necessarily work.
Yeah, we just talked about like the maturing of the industry, and with the breweries themselves maturing, there's also these other support industries that kind of come up, and I think that you have kind of become a part of that support industry. So can you talk about you've been a part of these different startups. Can you talk about like some of the problems that breweries have faced since you've gotten into it, and like what you guys are trying to solve?
Yeah, a lot of it has been exactly the problems with the business side. We really got into this industry out of passion. That's what brought most of us to this.
Yeah.
You sure as hell don't get into beer because you're hoping to make a lot of money. There's a lot of easier ways to do that, and anybody who's getting into it with that aim, is the least efficient way of trying to make a buck, even if you do everything right. So, that passion is what allowed us to swim upstream a bit and really, kind of cartwheel uphill as an entire industry against all the headwinds. The challenge is, as growth has slowed down, that growth covered up a lot of unsustainable business models, and a lot of the things we're seeing hit the industry now, they were always going to happen. And it's not because we have a bubble. It's not because we're even too crowded. There's 14,000 wineries in the U.S., and they make up less than half the market share that the beer industry does, and about 40% of that is imported. So it's like that was never the issue. The issue is we didn't necessarily have the right kind of businesses. And when you start to see tapering off growth, especially as you start reaching a more mainstream audience who just doesn't care as much about beer, never are going to care as much about beer. They care about other things. It's not that they're not passionate, but they're never going to engage with this the way that we do. And that means that now we have to engage with them where they are, and we have to engage with our businesses in a way where we're not just taking a huge SBA loan and then sustaining that with PPP money and a huge amount of leveraged debt, and then we're wondering, wait, how the hell are we not able to pay our bills? That was going to happen whether COVID happened or not. That was going to happen regardless of if the growth slowed or not. That's just when you got a large portion of these new firms that are starting to reach 3, 4, 5 years, natural point where small businesses in general start to run out of their initial capital and start to come up against the realities of running a business. So, yeah, I feel very positively about where the industry is going, but I do think this next step is going to be about business model innovation, and it's going to be about blocking and tackling on the stuff that, frankly, we should have learned a decade ago.
Definitely. There's a lot of efficiency loss and just plain bad business models that are kind of coming out. But kind of what have you specifically done? Are you getting in with these startups from the ground level, or are you just kind of coming in as the sales specialist and everybody and you're going to all the conferences?
Yeah, so these days the role with the Fifth Ingredient. Yeah. So we're a software company. We do brewery management software, and at this point, I've used just about every software on the market. I was actually one of Ecos's early customers, if anyone's familiar with them, in the Charlotte area. I'm good friends with all of them, even now that they're owned by NextGlass, so no enmity there. But really the goal is just trying to make breweries realize that controlling your data and controlling your processes, and importantly, getting time back is critical. Because the ironic thing is small breweries, a lot of times the people working at them have less time available than the larger ones because they're wearing 4 or 5 hats each. So anything that gives you the ability to get away from working in your business and get you back towards working on your business, huge. So that's the software side. Outside of that, we do still a lot of collaboration, a lot of consultation for our customers. And even outside of my role at Beer 30, I do still take on consulting clients. I'm on advisory boards, one for a Mexican craft brewery, one for a THC non-alcoholic beer, which has been awesome. Shout out to Paracarista and Kama. But yeah, just trying to find ways of helping this industry continue to grow and continue to evolve.
Sales consultancy or like you're just business operations?
These days, business operations.
Okay.
Sales is part of that. Marketing is part of that. But yeah, at this point, it goes pretty well into anything that you need from like a strategic standpoint, anything outside of the actual brewing.
Okay.
I have brewed 3 commercial batches. No one wants me doing anymore. I'm not good at it. That's why we have people like yourself. But just trying to help people not just make their beer taste better, but make their business run better.
Yeah, and I feel like the same way that people look at like how does a brewer make that? Brewers have no idea business operations. Most brewers. And I feel like when someone like you come in, you're like a wizard. You're like kind of fix everything for people. Kind of like your website. Like your website, it was kind of the same way. Like we don't know how to.
Our website was trash, is what Richie was saying, which it was. But it's getting much
But it takes one person to come in and kind of fix everything, clean it all up. Just very exciting. So what is the conference? You're on this conference tour, I guess.
conference tour.
Yeah, I need to get T-shirts printed out. That would be awesome. Just all the dates on the back.
Get back to the wrestling days.
If I show up in a Speedo, they're going to have a problem.
Yeah. But when you're going to these, like are you talking to most of them?
Yeah, I think last year I did 19 speaking engagements, plus a few more virtually. But yeah.
And that's on behalf of Beer 30, or they're having you come in
all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing that is important is anything that's like a commercial like pitch. It's a waste of the listener's time. Like if I'm just going in there and tell you how awesome my software is, like that's a commercial. I wouldn't want to listen to that either. So I'll sometimes use Beer 30 as an example of some of the the systems and the data that you can use to get some of this information. If people aren't able to walk away with something they can actually use, regardless of what system they're using, they're not going to trust me. And that's important in this industry. These are a lot of folks who come from engineering or accounting or, legal or, manufacturing backgrounds, a million different backgrounds. They might not necessarily have the background, within the beer industry. So you need to build that trust because that's how they're buying a lot of times. They're buying from people who have been recommended to them, from word of mouth, from people who have earned their trust with demonstrating
if they understand what you're saying.
Exactly. So it's important to make sure that they're able to use something that is not dependent on just being a customer of any given product. So it's been a variety of things. I'll talk about data sometimes. I'll talk about sales. I'll talk about variable compensation programs. I'll talk about staff education programs, pretty much everything in between, just trying to make sure that when they walk out of there, they've got something they can use to help their business run better. That way, when they do have a need on that software side, then they are going to come to us. That's really kind of the flip side, the selfish reason for it. But
what trends are you seeing as far as like sales or operations going that like you think breweries, like maybe small to medium sized breweries, need to kind of focus on?
Absolutely. Tap room's key. I've said it before. I actually said in the intro I gave this morning for one of the seminars that we're a hospitality industry with a beer problem, not vice versa.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing for a lot of breweries to wake up to because, beer, this is what got most of us into this to start with. It can't end at that, and that's not where the money's coming from because your business model isn't selling beer. Your business model is selling things over your bar. That can be beer. That could be wine, that can be spirits, that could be food, that can be merch. All of those require the same level of respect and care as the beer you're making in-house. Mm-hmm. Because your brew house isn't a way to make beer, it's a way to recapture margin on a percentage of the stuff that you're selling over the bar. You make more off of your own beer than you do if you bought it off of a wholesaler. That also means that that's really the ROI. Are you making more off of the beer you're producing there than you could if you added extra seats into that space or made it an event space, something along those lines? And when you start revisiting that
and not buy equipment.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just about getting another tank. And it could be, but you need to make sure that you're able to recoup some more of that margin by expanding your production. than you could by, finding some other means of getting that production or selling some other product or co-manufacturing something along those lines. When you start looking at it that way, it makes it a lot more sensible and a lot more simple in a lot of ways to make some of those strategic business decisions, even though it gets us further away from how do I make more beer, which is instinctually what a lot of us want to do because that's why we got into this.
Yeah. Yeah, like how to make, if you had just not spent the money on buying all that equipment, would you be further along?
Oh, yeah. And no one has ever gotten the size of their equipment right. You are either oversized or undersized by definition. So you bought enough to grow into, but now you're undersized for a while. Or you bought enough to where you're not spending too much money. Oh, crap, we need to make more beer. And that's the inevitable thing that's going to come. And we need to get out of our heads that you have to own your own manufacturing. No other industry works like this. Literally no other industry works like this. And it can be. It is something beautiful about being able to be there and making it with your own hands. And if you're passionate about that, that's something that can be worthwhile. But you need to understand how that's weighed against the opportunity costs and whether or not that's making an impact on your business or if you're just doing it because it makes an impact on your vision for your business, which is also valid. But it is distinct from what's the objective best business decision.
This is something I wrestled with for many years. Like I spent 10 years on production, and then I thought, my way into owning my own space was to keep producing my own beer.
Yeah.
And now I'm not making any money. I'm not doing anything that I learned over the last 10 years other than like kind of general business knowledge. And I thought that there was going to be this huge pushback as far as like I'm contract brewing. People are going to like judge me that way. But just telling my story about like why I am contract brewing, I'm not getting the pushback that I thought I would be getting as a contract brand.
It's a hard thing to reconcile because customers really do care that there's a human behind the beer. That does matter.
Yeah.
They care a lot less that it's brewed on site. They really don't care. Like the tanks are nice to look at, but functionally they're the equivalent of even to those pizza places where you get to see them tossing the dough. And it's a lot of fun. We all like them. It's a great time.
Yeah.
I really just want a good pizza. Like those are nice. It might be an added benefit, but at the end of the day, the average customer cares a lot more that there is a human behind it. There is something value added to having a vision, a person, a human. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest growth brands in the country is Wicked Weed. And yes, there are people making Wicked Weed, but it's not or New Belgium. It's not as though these are small artisan operations where somebody's in there with their hands, like doing it and has one core vision from start to finish.
Yeah.
These are industrial operations. They have a vision behind them. There is care behind them. The quality is important. The consistency, even more important, is critical. But for the average customer, it is that combination of storytelling and consistency and convenience of purchase and price point that all comes together to create that value for them because beer is one small part of their lives. And that's okay. That's why nerds like us are here to really bridge that gap for them and make sure that they're still leaving surprised and delighted, regardless of why they're there in the first place.
Definitely. It's people are so used to seeing brewing equipment now. I have like this. I know people are gonna get upset by me saying this, but it's like people are used to seeing like vertical conical tanks, and now the lagering tanks, like, is it about lagering or is this just a different looking tank they get to look at? And everyone's like, all right, what is cool now about this? It's just, obviously I'm making generalizations here.
I have to, yeah. And I'll say, like, I just want to speak directly to my extended family. If one more of you buy me for Christmas, like a brewery tour, I've seen what tanks look like. I've been doing this for over 15 years. Please, anything else. Don't buy me a present at all. It's great. I don't need another brewery tour. Yeah, it's definitely been a transformation within the industry. It's definitely been an evolution, and we should be okay having these conversations.
Yeah.
We definitely had some certain things that were kind of verboten to even talk about. Obviously every brewery needs their own equipment.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be handcrafting everything.
Yeah.
This is the critical path forward. We need to turn every customer into a Cicerone. That was never realistic. That was never going to happen. There's a reason that the Big Mac is the number one selling burger in the world. It's not because it's the best burger, but it's affordable, consistent, convenient, and everywhere. And there's value for that, just like there is for that little corner burger joint that's just making really good freaking burgers.
Yeah.
That are really tailored to that small group of diehards that happen to be here. You can bridge that gap to a degree.
I don't think you get to where we are at in the industry though if you don't originally go through what we did before.
No, that was
trying to create that
necessary
religion around beer, and it's creating this culture. And now we have the culture, and now we can kind of like grow into it.
And it's not that those beers have ceased to exist.
Yeah.
For all the belly aching around, everything's a hazy IPA these days. We have more craft beer than we've ever had at any point in history.
Yeah.
You can find good craft beer at gas stations, not even just from the big brands in some cases, some very great local brands as well. You can get better access to Belgian beers than you could earlier, even though back in the day they made up a larger percentage of what craft was at the time. So I think there's a lot of upsetness that the relative percentages of that diehard craft versus the more general craft have flipped a little. But craft is a much bigger pie. And this was always going to have to happen if we wanted to be able to connect with a larger group of customers, because it's never going to serve for us to just continue shrinking the pie. It's one of the things I say in a lot of the seminars, a lot of the things I teach is I have everybody raise their hand if you like craft beer. And of course, because it's a bunch of brewers, everybody raises their hand. And I say, keep your hand up if you drink bourbon. Most of them keep their hands up. I say, you're the fucking problem. We even moved on to trying other things because the same thing that led us to love this, to love flavor, to love history, exploring all of this craft was always going to lead to us also broadening our palate. So how do we make it to where this category continues to be relevant and continues to meet that audience where they're at?
I think it's not just beer. A lot of, again, more things to get people angry. Counterculturism, hipsterism. These things that are like anti-establishment, at some point they kind of turn against themselves at some point. And I think craft beers, like in the last few years, has kind of gone through some of that.
It is, and it's starting to turn back around.
Yeah.
The people who are entering the industry now, I've been incredibly heartened by the fact that they know what this is.
Yeah.
They still love beer. That's still why they're doing this, because again, it's still a terrible way to make money. But they understand that this is something that requires a business model. They don't want to take on too much debt. They don't want to, put their mother-in-law's house up for risk by taking on a huge SBA loan with that as collateral. Like, they're being a lot smarter and they're thinking more sustainably right from the outset, which is exactly what we'd expect. And honestly, that gives me a lot of faith for the future of the industry.
It's a much more sustainable way to have a long-term business. And we like to romanticize these old, European breweries in the U.S. that are like becoming very popular, like these like lager style breweries and these Belgian breweries that have been around for like hundreds of years. They didn't get there by like leveraging their ass off and like growing at an unreasonable rate. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them that have done that, but a lot of the things that people are romanticizing are like these like small, well-run, not leveraged businesses.
100%. It's also important to remember that a lot of those venerable ancient European breweries are either not nearly as old as we think they are, or what they are now is they've continued to evolve with time, just like anybody has. Most of the Belgian beer styles we associate with Belgian breweries these days date back to the 60s and 70s. They're not hundreds of years old. Even something like Lambic has had a long but very diverse history, and the modern version of Lambic is a modern production. Something like Saison DuPont, for all the stories they tell about that being an ancient style and continuity. No, it's all made up. It's marketing.
Yeah.
It's not that old, and it doesn't make it any less amazing. And it doesn't make those breweries any less impressive or any less incredible or any less important. But we need to give ourselves a little credit with the idea that, this story will continue to be written.
Yeah.
And when you're in a country where people are drinking beer by age 7, you got a little bit of a leg up when it comes to getting people on board with the project.
Yeah. So I guess we don't have much longer, but like, are you seeing trends that you're going towards, or is like looking towards the future?
I think we should talk about the Craft Beer Hall of Fame a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely forgot about that. I'm like, one check on.
You gotta
So
check it out.
Craft Beer Hall of Fame. Were you a part of putting that together, or you're the vice president of it now?
Yeah, so that was originally from the mind of Marty Nachel, who really wrote Craft Beer or Beer for Dummies, How to Judge Beer Like a Pro. He's one of the most well-respected beer judges on earth.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a handful of us to come on board with the initial board of directors, help make this a reality. So I've been very blessed to come on board originally as the secretary of the board and now vice president.
Yeah.
And really just trying to create an avenue and a venue for not just honoring and bringing attention to the people who helped build this industry, but using that as an opportunity to hopefully inspire the present and future generations to think similarly and think about the fact that the headwinds and the challenges that we're facing today may be dissimilar in form, but they're not dissimilar in degree to the things that were facing this industry before. And that we found our way through innovation, through stubbornness, through creativity, and through collaboration. And that really is still the path forward even today with where the industry's at.
So this year was the second
induction ceremony. Yeah.
to be honest, this class was like my age of like getting into craft beer, like all the inductees this year. Last year's class, I think, was like a little bit ahead of my time. I did not know a lot of the people on the list from the original class.
Well, they do have things called books.
Yes. And I don't read books. But
You're a brewer, we know.
But you read way more books than you. It's crazy.
But the class this year was like kind of like the people that I was always kind of looking up to. It was very cool.
And we knew the first couple of years was going to be a lot of the more obvious names. That's kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
You got to kind of build that foundation of the people that we all recognize their contributions. People like Garrett Oliver, people like Sam Calagione, which I know is going to be on the show here soon.
Yeah.
People like Pete Schlossberg, good friends.
Yeah.
And from here, the story of craft beer goes well beyond just those individuals, though. And there are a lot of people who have been absolutely critical and foundational to this industry who don't necessarily get as well recognized. So I'm actually really looking forward to some of those future stages where we're getting past a little of the flash. And that's not to denigrate the achievements at all of the people who have been inducted so far, but get into some of those people who really did contribute towards making this what it is today.
That might not be in the headlines, I guess.
Exactly.
And what's the selection process like? And it's gone throughout the board, I'm assuming, like.
Yeah, so the board's actually a lot less connected to who gets in than you think, and that was by design. We didn't want this to be a coronation or just a choice by a small handful. So we have nearly 100 electors from all elements of the industry, but mostly focused on people who are not actual producers working for breweries themselves, and that was by design. We wanted people who reflect on this industry but are unlikely to necessarily get into the hall itself, because we didn't want any sort of like conflicts of interest, and we wanted people who think about this stuff and have been thinking about this stuff since well before the hall itself has been made a reality. So they provide the nominations. We winnow that down to a list of the most voted upon people, the people who have the most consensus among the electorate, and from there we vote, including the board and as well as our board of electors, to winnow that down further still to the people who are able to make it in every year. So we've had a little bit larger group the first couple of years. We actually expanded our voting eligibility requirements. That way we could get some of these initial people who we all knew were going to be kind of the initial couple of classes, not out of the way, but make sure that we were able to get them enshrined without dragging it out any further than needed to. And from here, we're not trying to fill a quota. If there's 2 people who make it in a given year, there's 2 people who make it in. If there's 5, there's 5 people to make it in. We want to make sure that we're not just bringing in people for the sake of having a class. We're bringing in people because the people who reflect on this industry say, hey, that individual is deserving of all of the recognition and of all of the honor that we're able to give them for their accomplishments.
It's cool that you guys just started this. Something like this, like when you give out an award, like you don't know if people are gonna like accept it, or like the general public.
Yeah.
And everybody was like so public about like it was very. It has become a thing very quickly.
It is. It's been awesome watching the reception, and not just among the people receiving the award, but even the industry writ large.
Yeah.
Particularly this last year. I mean, one of the nice things that we tend to forget is this industry is not that old. A lot of the people who really build this industry are still around, and some of them are still very active. Garrett Oliver is over at CBC right now, hanging out. I mean, Mitch Steele just got a new job at Abita. Congrats, Mitch. But it's awesome to be able to watch these individuals continue with the industry and to realize that they're very accessible to people. And most of them got into this for the exact same reasons that you did, or that I did. And that's been one of the great lessons I actually took from wrestling. For all the jokes that we did, some of the people I worshipped as a kid, I'd be changing in the bottom, like in the basement of like a Knights of Columbus hall, getting ready for a show. And part of that's depressing. It means it's not a great retirement plan for wrestling. But by the same token, they're very accessible. They're people. They put on their pants one leg at a time. Yeah. Most of them are very giving with advice, their time, their suggestions, even just conversation. That is triply so for the craft beer industry. Someone like Mitch Steele, who I know y'all are going to be interviewing, is one of the most just humble, incredible humans in the industry, in spite of all the accomplishments that he 100% deserves credit for. Hasn't been inducted in the hall yet. I don't think it'll be long. He was one of our nominees this year. And people like Garrett Oliver, people like Sam, people like Pete Schlossberg. It's amazing to have these individuals who are happy to share their knowledge, share their insight, and honestly just share a beer with you, because this is what got all of us into it in the first place. And it creates this common foundation for being able to build relationships.
Yeah, I think it's not just the awardees that wanted it. I think the whole industry was like, this is definitely something we need. I know it's like, you think about like the Baseball Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, they've been around forever. But from my perspective, like the UFC Hall of Fame, they just started that. And like, some of these people are still fighting. But yeah, and it's just like, it's like hard to start something like that. But it was like instantly kind of accepted. And it was, it's cool things. It's something that's now going to become a thing in the industry.
It is, and it's awesome to hear that from people outside of this like bubble that I live in as well. I love to hear that, and we're obviously working our way towards a brick and mortar right now. It lives entirely online, but that's not where it needs to stop. We've already started collecting Brewery memorabilia over time to be able to mark some of these. The Smithsonian exhibit for craft beer, if anyone's familiar with, fantastic. The Beer Culture Institute. Some of these concepts exist, so being able to bring these together and continue to tell this story beyond just what's in a glass to the people behind it, that's really the key, because every industry is a human industry when you get to it, and beer is also a culture industry more than most. So being able to memorialize that culture, the humans, the people, way above and beyond just what we happen to be enjoying out of a can or out of a tap, that really is the realization of what this means to all of us.
Definitely the culture, the history, like that's kind of how I fell in love with it. But awesome. I think that has been half an hour. These half-hour episodes are flying by. It's a lot of fun. It's awesome to get to know you. Like we said, like you're kind of everywhere, and like I'm looking forward to kind of seeing you out and about at all these conferences now.
Yeah, just for any conference, really.
You'll probably run into me at some point. I'm pretty hard to miss.
Yeah. So where do we find you?
Absolutely. You can find Beer 30 at thefifthingredient.com.
Yeah.
And also find the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame at, this is going to surprise everyone, AmericanCraftBeerHallOfFame.com. You can find me online at Ale Chaser. That's my tag on most social media, ALECHASER. Or if you just want to connect, reach out direct to me, AMJ so AMJGore@gmail.com. I love to meet people around the industry, and I love to help in whatever way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so you can find us at BrewedAt, at the BrewedAt podcast. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sweet. Thank you.
Cheers.